Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner, and I am going to play with another of the birthday collection die sets. This time I'm going to be using the color block balloons, and I'm kind of thinking I'm wanting to go kind of in a black and gold kind of vibe. So I've grabbed out a bunch of the stuff out of my scraps. I've got some silver in here too, so I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind. But I'm going to go ahead and start cutting out some of these. Now the way that these color block dies work, it basically is going to cut out each of those little wave shapes on each of these dies, so that's going to be kind of cool. And then you get to paper piece everything together. So let's go ahead and get to die cutting and putting together some colorful balloons. Before I get to die cutting though, I had a thought. I'm going to be doing some paper piecing, and I think it'll be a lot easier if my paper is already sticky. So I've got, I know don't use this very often, but I'm going to give it a shot. I've got some old double-sided adhesive sheets. I think this is a sheet. This might just be paper. Oh, there we go. This one is some Stick-It brand, and I've had it in my stash for probably about, I don't know, 2 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add that to the back of my paper, and then I'll be able to cut this out with the dies, with the full shape dies for the full circle, so that it's going to be easier to adhere everything else into. So there's a lot of different brands of this that you can use, and it just makes it easier. And this paper does seem kind of thin, which is good, because my biggest issue with trying to do this is that sometimes my die cutting doesn't want to work because the paper is almost too thick. So you may want to try a thinner paper when you're doing this. Now this is, I think this is some 80-pound Nina that I was doing some printing on and messed up the print, so I'm going to use the rest of the page just as regular cardstock. Okay, so now I'm ready to die cut the bigger circles, or rather the 3 circles, out of this cardstock to have a bunch of pieces for me to be able to stick all of my little die cuts to once I get the shapes cut out. Okay, now that I've got a bunch of this cut apart, I'm going to attempt to get some of that release paper off of this first circle. As I mentioned, I don't use it often enough, so let's give it a try. I know this is the side that has the release paper on it. I'm probably making it harder than it actually is. And I am, because it's actually coming up fairly easy right there from the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that back. So this is my bunch of pieces for this specific one. So I should probably lay them out a little bit so I know which one goes where. And I've got 2 of them cut out. I've got one in gold and one. I probably should have done this arranging part first. Okay. So now I've got 2 circles, so I'm going to start with one of the top pieces and then just line it up right with the edge. And that's going to give me a place to start laying the rest of these down. And I know me, I am going to use my tweezers because otherwise I can't get things actually where I want them. My fingers get in the way. Okay. And I'm pushing it right up against the edge of the of the previous piece. And now I realize that this first piece and the last piece are actually in the wrong order, so I'm going to try to gently pull that off and reposition it. Because they're shaped slightly different. Like the end of one curves more and one is more elongated. I'll put this last one in. And now we have our first balloon. So after putting each of these together, I am burnishing it down to make sure that that adhesive sticks very well. Okay, so now I've got 6 balloons and I just have to figure out how to put them on a card. The background, I decided to use the Radiant Burst embossing folder. I think that is just so pretty, and I'm going to actually layer it up on a couple of different pieces of cardstock. First, I'm going to put it on some white cardstock, because I think that white on white looks really nice, but I am going to trim that down as well. So let me go ahead and add some liquid adhesive to this. So just kind of put it in the center, and then I'm going to trim down those edges. And this is pretty much to give it a lot of stability. So on my paper trimmer, I'm lining up the edge of my paper guard, or my thumb guard rather, right to the edge. And then I'll trim that off, and that gives that little 1/8 of an inch border that I like. One reason that I like that is that it is so easy to mat everything and pretty much perfect every time. Yes, that's still good. Just by lining it up on your paper trimmer like this. And that little detail is just so nice. Okay, so now that's got that little layer there. Okay. And I'm going to put this again onto the black cardstock, doing the same thing. I'm going to trim that off with that little 1/8 of an inch on the outside of that last border. Now I can start arranging my balloons. I also cut out the pieces for the strings and for some highlights and for the little ties. So I think I'm going to first pick out, I think I'm just going to do 3. That's probably plenty for the front of a card. Yeah, I'll just do 3, which means I've got enough to do a second card. And adhere these little ties to the back of my balloons. Put a little bit of adhesive right on the circle part, and then attach that to the bottom of my balloon. And while I'm waiting for this last one to dry, I'm going to take a look and see how the highlight looks, because I don't know if I want to add it or not. Because I really like all that gold shine on this, and I don't know that we actually that does kind of look cool. I am going to have to add those little details too once I get everything on here. Okay. So next I'm going to add a little dimension with some foam tape, starting with my balloon that's up in the upper corner. And then I'll do my larger balloon off to that side. Okay, and I'll have it positioned like that, so now I know where to put my string. Okay, and then this one, I'm going to have it right down here. I'm thinking 1 layer of foam tape should be fine for that as well. Okay, I do really like those balloons, and now it's ready to add whatever sentiment that you want to add to the front. Okay, this one is actually in black and silver. Oh, that still looks good. I was thinking it probably needed to be gold instead of silver, but I still think that that may be just about right. And I'm going to put that down at the bottom and pop that up on a little bit of foam. Okay, so the last thing that I have left to do then is going to be those little tiny accents. But I also wanted to make sure that they are all kind of facing the same direction, having the light source on the same side. So that's one reason why I wanted to put the balloons in place first. This is so lovely. All it needs to do now is just go onto an A2 size card base. And that's it. Oh, this one is so elegant. I am loving these balloons. So be sure to check out the rest of the birthday collection. I will have I'm creating a new playlist. This is going to be over here as well as a playlist with all of the other projects that I've done using Spellbinders products. You guys have a wonderful day. Remember, if I can make it, you can too. And see you next time. Bye-bye for now.